Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Apologies for the small delay in our technology. Thank you for joining us again. And we are now in the midst of December. We are in the early stages of December, and we are starting to now experience the changes that we anticipated several months ago. So some months ago, we suggested, maybe about 6, 8 months ago, that increasingly there will be a division in society that begins to polarize society into two parts. So we begin to see that very much now prevalent. We start to see that as we've approached December, and as anticipated, as expected, pop comes up here a new impactful variant with mutations. And it's important not to be complacent. It's important to be cautious, but it's also far more important to be aware of your own reactions to or overreactions to this constant pattern. So you will notice, or the aware observer begins to notice, that there was a similar pattern when we were all in the crisis of the terrorists, if you remember, 2 or 3 years ago, who just miraculously seem to have disappeared and been replaced by another type of fear-inducing mechanism. And the fear-inducing mechanism, once again, seems to be labeling the other as the danger, and then you all have to react to it and become, increasingly more cautious. So it began with the fight on communism, fight on drugs, fight on terrorism, fight on immigration, fight on, and now we've come to a new fight, but the pattern is the same. And the pattern is a holding pattern. And the pattern creates a situation in which you experience an emotion. That emotion holds you within that unfolding of that experience. So it has a start, it creates an emotion, the emotion traps you in that holding pattern. That holding pattern then begins to emerge and unfold. So let us see the holding pattern that has emerged now with the new variant out there. So there's a flood of information. There is a flood of language. The language is all about words and punctuated with fact and mythology in some ways, simply to carry a message. So the naming of the the pathogen, to make it scientific, to make it the other. The names that are provided go towards feeding that narrative. Then the language around all of this, the fear language, the cases, the number of people, how many people have, irrespective of, everyone may get a cold, but not everyone dies of a cold. And this may be a similar kind of variant, right? But this fear propaganda, which is just a constant feed. So, for example, if you have access to alternative sources of information, you will have realized that during this weekend, for argument's sake, there were huge protests, massive protests in Italy, in Denmark, Netherlands, in Barcelona, in Madrid, in various parts of other parts of the world, that the whole world, the Netherlands, etc., the world is waking up to this constant narrative of fear, hold, provide a solution. And what is the solution? The solution is always that the to do with having vaccinations or others. So as we anticipated several months ago, and we tried so hard, as hard as we could, to warn parents of children please do your research before you engage and allow your children to be introduced to things that we don't have enough data on. I heard of an expert on the TV admitting that yes, they've done this to their children, but they admit that it's something that only parents may of I don't know what provokes this emotion where you feel that I wouldn't want to put my child in danger knowingly or unknowingly. So plotting on part of athletes normalize their stuff by blaming it to, I don't know, whatever they blame it on, whether it's climate crisis or local curry houses or the color of the sky or so. But it wasn't there. It wasn't there. It wasn't there a few months ago. So the divide is now relatively clear. The impact of the actions within the divide are now unfolding in their own timeline, whichever side it is to hold truth. Because now we are coming to that climatic point at which there is so much change and so much energetic collapsing of systems, exposure of the impact of this intervention, the exposure of the fact that while all these protests and reactions are taking place against this narrative, the mainstream media exposure that the our glorious leaders, the mainstream media, when you have riots going around the world, why is that missing from mainstream media? Why is that narrative missing? Why is the only narrative this fear-based narrative and not the narrative that challenges the current status quo? So as this exposure becomes more and more visible, anger will arise more and more pronouncedly. So we are expecting that the month of December is a month in which there is much change and shift, a month in which overreaction is very possible, a month in which fear can dominate us, and the overreaction is to do with the fear. Right? The overreaction is to do with the fear. The overreaction is to do with anger. So, accept, surrender, flow is the theme of the month of December that we feel is the possible method, the only method of navigating. So, the acceptance isn't resignation. Acceptance is first identifying what is it that we're resistant to. So you may not like what's going on around you. However, that's not the thing that's not being accepted. What is the acceptable part is perhaps how it makes you feel. So in order to work with non-acceptance, it's useful to focus first within ourselves to get a handle on what is it within ourselves that gives us a level of resistance, right? And so, for example, if my focus goes on the impact that children are being kind of forced into, then I feel a level of distress and I have a level of resistance to that. I have a level of resistance to that, a level of non-acceptance to that. And it is that distress in me that gives me the clue that I am not accepting that. So, how do we deal with things? Well, can I change that? No, I can't change that. So, this is where acceptance becomes acceptance, not as a sense of resignation, but a sense of recognition that, yep, there isn't much I can do to change that. However, what I can do is change my attitude to what is going on and see it beyond this rather narrow lens of our egoic self, but behind with this kind of metaphysical, this energy that maintains the whole thing in a perpetual unfolding, moment by moment, breath by breath. And this unfolding has a pattern to it. This unfolding has a direction to it. It has an intelligence to it. And it is all being done without your and my intervention. So when we bring it within that context, when we bring it within that context, the context of hukam, the context of the unfolding intentional nature of this moment, we then recognize the auspiciousness of this moment, the fact that in this moment, humanity has been graced with a shake-up of such proportions in which much of this will go to expose what has been the hidden hand, not just behind the manipulation and the control of humanity and the farming of humanity and their children. Wait till that stuff comes out. But more importantly, the civilization and how far the human civilization go, the interplanetary nature of our civilization, all of these areas of human awareness and being are what humanity is being led into. So, over the next few months, should we be given these opportunities to continue, is to bring to light some of these wider implications of what's happening, such that we can begin to recognize that yes, what is happening needs to happen, is happening, and you need to expose the hand that's using the knife. You need to expose the hand. Unless you know where the hand is, you can't identify where it comes from. So all that is happening is the exposure of the hand. The exposure of that is even those a month ago who felt perhaps that this counter narrative was unproductive will now have realized with the number of athletes that are collapsing, etc., uh, will now realize that maybe something seems a little bit fishy. Something needs to be investigated. And it's these little drops of awareness that just shift this human awareness. And this shift in human awareness is the counterbalance. It's the counterbalance to what's going to go on. See it, but react. Fire, you can see it. You know it's dangerous, but it doesn't impact you. As the flame draws closer to you, you begin to see it more clearly. And perhaps every so often, there's a little hint of warmth. But when it gets close to you, the heat motivates you to react. You don't need to do anything. So we are now in a position where the distant flame has moved closer. And soon this distant flame, this moved closer flame, will become so close that we as human individuals will respond to that, or we will react to that. Why? Because that uncomfort and that distress will force us to do this. And doing that, we will discover many things about ourselves. We will discover our source of strength. We will discover our capabilities. We will discover that humanity has a way of evolving that requires this squeeze every so often to move us from one space of comfort to another space of being, developing, and in time becoming our place of comfort. So let's take hope in the fact that by aligning ourselves with this universal space of unfolding, we allow this acceptance to become a sense of surrender. Not that we've given anything up, that we have stopped to control, right? We stop to control. We become aware of the unfolding. We hold it in our wider awareness, but we stop. We prevent ourselves to wishing to fix it, to wanting to stop it. So we allow this willinglessness to emerge from us, to emerge. It's a sense of an emergence. And that through that emergence, we go into the flowing. So through acceptance into the resistance of what is. And the resistance is not what's going on out there, it's what's going on within ourselves. And to identify where we are, how we are feeling, are some of the fundamental uh, um, steps to our navigation in these times. So, if we begin with our meditation now, and within this meditation, again, we're going to look at we're going to look at getting a sense of where we are, how we are, and then perhaps use a technique to help us release if there is a level of attachment to a particular emotional space, right? So if you guys can close your eyes, close your mouth, and just get your posture in place. I'll just get my bell. Pull your shoulders up. Make sure they're not hunched though. And stretch your neck up. And this collective meditation that we do has far greater implications than our subjective self. The fact that we can share silence and conscious space together and cultivate a little bit of peace helps in cultivating global peace. So, and as you breathe in, bring your focus now to your posture as a whole. Notice your face. Notice if there's any traces of tension around your face. Moving your awareness towards your neck. And then notice your shoulders. From your shoulders, if you move your awareness down, becoming aware of your arms, from your elbows, scan the back. So move from the back of your neck, move your awareness down to your shoulder blades, move down towards your middle back, lower back, and then from your hips, you can move down to your thighs, and from your knees, notice your feet, and then notice the soles of your feet. As your breath comes in, once again, just becoming aware of yourself as best as you can. Notice your physical body. Try and get a sense of it as a whole. As you breathe in again, bring your focus now to your inner space. And by this I mean how you're feeling, your thoughts, your internal climate, antakaran, your inner space. And as you move your focus within yourself, bring your focus first towards your thoughts. Is there anything dominate? Anything that's dominant right now? Any thoughts that you have been having today that have been dominant? General state of your mind. Does it feel tired? Does it feel fatigued? Does it feel fresh? Does it feel clear? Do you have mental energy? As you breathe in, bring your focus now to your chest. Begin to notice the movement of your chest with the breath. See if you can move your awareness a bit deeper into yourself. It's almost like your focus is in the middle of your body. And from this space, allow your awareness to get a sense of how you're feeling right now. Does this moment feel settled? Does this moment feel unsettled? Remember, this moment is all you and I have. Nothing else exists. There is no past. There is no future. And all it is, we're embedded in this moment of now. Space itself. You can hold you. Breathe in and out from. And the sounds that you hear around you can only be the sounds that are around you. Bringing your focus just beneath your nose. Sitting with your breath. Begin to know the breath is breathing by itself. Notice how the in-breath and the out-breath are synchronized. There's a rhythm to it. Your in-breath begins and then fades. The out-breath begins, grows, and notice the start, middle, end of your in-breath, start, middle, end of your out-breath. And drifting, allowing the breath to, without even the slightest, like allowing a river to flow. Follow your out breath to the end. See if you can notice when it stops. When it stops before the in breath begins. See if you can notice that gap. How long does that gap last? When the out breath finishes, before the in breath begins. Now, how does that feel? How does your breath feel? Notice the flow of your breath. Notice the flow of your Just as this breath knows how to flow, so does the universe know how to unfold. Notice that your breath. Bring your focus and see if you can hear the sound of your breath as you breathe in, sound of your breath as you breathe out. Listening to the breath as you breathe out. On your next breath out, begin to listen to the sounds around you, using the sound of the bell to enter the silence. Notice the quality of your experience. Bringing your awareness to how experience is being experienced. If it feels silent, then notice the silence. If you feel peaceful, notice the peace. If you feel still, notice the stillness. Allowing your awareness to simply flow as you follow this sound. Focus just beneath your nose, your breath, sharing this silence. Next breath out, expanding your awareness to become aware of your whole body as best as you can. Notice you're still where you began. Your back is still straight. Your hips, thighs. You can sense your legs all the way down to your ankles and your feet. Your back, shoulders, arms and hands are comfortable. Your eyes are still closed. Your mouth is still closed. Your face is relaxed, coming back to your breath. As the breath comes in, as the breath goes out, you sense your body. When you hear the next bell, use this bell to draw a few deep breaths in, and in your own good time, opening your eyes. Take your time.